Yeah, good evening, gentlemen and folks. This is the bright opportunity to be a part of ICSD 2025, which is a great, initiative for sustainable development. As a part of it, as a delegate, today I'm going to present the paper, the titled as "The Role of Functional Strategies for Sustainable Development of Small Business Retails in Achieving Economic Business Objectives." As a part of this, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Anand P G, pursuing research studies at Kuvempu University, Karnataka, India, one of the pioneer university in the state fraternity. And co-author name is Mr. Professor Manjunath K R. Affiliation with the Colombo University again. Let me start with my presentation. I'm going to cover up today the entire, the presentation flow in terms of making this as a very concrete and realization part of it. My presentation is going like this. I'll start with the abstract introduction, then literature review, followed by methodology as a progress part, then again functional strategy analysis as a core study of the paper, then sustainability impact in terms of outcomes and contributions. Again, in terms of analysis, that findings and discussions, finally to conclude with the recommendation and key contributions, and followed by some references. Yeah. So basically, the rightly said, the study entire how this functional core strategies like marketing, finance, human resource management, and HR, being a part of it, how it impacts sustainable business developments in terms of retail segment, enabling them to achieve that critical economic objectives, which are very key performance indicators for countries' economic development. Being drawing a qualitative case study in terms of understanding the existing literature, contributions towards this. This research highlights about strategic intervention and it can enhance competitiveness. In terms of resilience, community engagement, the entire integration talks about inclusive management, which speaks about long-term economic and social outcomes. So having said that, as a part of introductory thing, today the entire retail business is getting expanded and transformed in a very contemporary landscape. Having said that, in the context line, this small business retailers play a very pivotal role in terms of criticality by fostering employment and innovation and local engagement in terms of connect. However, this entire sustainability, though it is giving us a potential challenges, but still it serves as one of the key element and key challenge as resource scarcity. If we look at this market volatility and technological shifts have made strategic businessmen essential. This paper explores how targeted strategies will help enterprise align with national and global economic objectives. Yeah, again, in terms of having that introductory note, there are famous, available, literature says that sculptures, Schumpeter's innovation, theory offers a foundational lens for, understanding this entire dynamism in terms of small scale retail. Particularly in terms of understanding this criticality, even along with that, there are certain called, the Dutta and Mishra, who talks about examine how Indian retailers are contributes very significantly for, this gross domestic product through modernization and strategic alignment with the contemporary developments. To key highlights with this, the literature reviews. If I talk about retail sector in India, it demonstrates how employment generation and GDP contribution towards the modernization, as well as the sustainability in small medium enterprises, highlights the gaps in terms of sustainability reporting and strategical planning. If we look at these challenges, there is definitely require practical evidence of understanding the empirical sites being basically on challenges and sustainability gaps relevance to Indian retail sector. So this talks about at least an origin. If you look at this overall consolidation of this summary, the entire study was observed focus was impact of hypermarkets by Srinivas and Ganesha. In terms of having these understanding economic focus, there is something called job retention and profitability, because always the viability is a very very critical aspect in retail. Challenge identified again competition from large scale retail because of this hyper intention competition. There are a lot of inventory challenges leads to shrinkage, shrinking margins. And also with the key recommendations again in terms of adaptation, customer loyalty, localized offerings. Because end of the day, if you don't focus on the local connect, what will happen? You will miss that complete connect between customer engagement as a part of CEP, customer engagement programs. So if you look at the practices as I said, sustainability, Tripathi and Akhtar have clearly said you have to understand the consumer behavior and foreign direct investment effects in terms of quality service, limited technology use, and all these technological adoption and customer-centric services training programs are very much essential. If you look at again retail and employment as multiple authors have taken up this study as employment growth and GDP contribution. As I said, the national development of the country. Infrastructure and digital gaps are very, very, very important for the context of contemporary developments, like in terms of understanding digital branding, inventory control, multi-channel logistics. Being the entire broader area of the small business in terms of macroeconomics, this talks about inflation, interest rates, and capital access. Rising cost and taxation pressure leads to, in terms of contribution. If you focus on these areas with overall challenges identified, taking as a prospect for this, you will be able to diversify look at the revenue diversification, financial planning, and government support. So having said that, the methodology, if I talk about this research, employs a qualitative case study approach using the secondary data from academic publications, reports, and various other available articles. This method enables a very, very multidimensional assessment of strategic practices and in terms of understanding the various Indian retail context. Yeah. So if you look at this functional strategy analysis, when it comes to, again, to drill down further, marketing speaks about digital platforms and influencer-based branding. This talks about techniques and localized promotions to improve customer retention. As we move ahead the subscription programs, this marketing is playing a very, very critical role in terms of handling these ATL and BTL activities, like above the line and below the line activities. Because as I said, below the line activities are always framed for connecting the local segment. And all these ATL are connecting the across national in terms of the wider reach and spread. That brings about mass communication. So basically, this marketing is something called communicating or transformative aspect. In terms of understanding operations, it is about technological tools such as the predictive inventory systems in terms of analytical theories, and also in terms of barcode scanning. This will help the time management and environmentally conscious sourcing enhances for brand reputation. So if you see all these critical operations today, retail is more focused on operational approach. Why? Because definitely there is a relation is required for sustainable impacts and developments. So in terms of understanding this finance, utilization of microfinance, all these government launch schemes like Mudra scheme, basically these are all reinforce about strategic reinvestment, strengthens fiscal sustainability and business growth. Especially it has been highlighted in terms of overall context. Again, in terms of managing this HRM, human resource management, upskilling initiatives, taking it as inclusive leadership practice and performance-driven incentives create a more engaged workforce that leads to more employee loyalty as well as customer loyalty. So always today, the entire businesses talk about the sustainability impacts. If you look at these functional strategies, how these strategies are developed towards sustainable development. So if you see the economic, it will contribute towards cost savings through sustainable practices. Then again, leads to increased profitability. So it is like minimize the expenses and maximize the returns. As we said, the effective resource allocation and scalability. It talks about environmental. If you look at the environmental, being a social responsible person, like promoting ethical source of raw materials, which leads to reducing the waste and reducing the carbon footprint. Right. Basically, in terms of social, again, job creation and local development, enhanced reputation, that talks about organization by aligning the SDG goals towards contributing the nation cause for social responsibility. As a CSR, corporate social responsibility, this reputation will bring in a lot of actionable things to the retail sector in terms of sustainability development goals. Again, if you look at this functional strategy framework, I've just framed this as a dual impact about how this functional strategy will help in terms of the area of focus with the implementation examples like inventory management, green sourcing, then budgeting, all these upskilling programs. It leads to very, very critical outcomes of sustainability, like being while achieving these entire as an implementation as an example as a role model, you'll be able to witness this environmental stewardship, social development, and employee engagement. So this talks about complete in terms of understanding the linking business towards multiple aspects. And as a qualitative analysis, if you see all this inventory control, sourcing materials, ethical raw material, e-commerce adaptation, social media, talks more on these key findings. If you look at this enhancing buying experience, reduce cost of operation, create value to their competitive proposition, customer value optimization, increase shifting towards loyalty, this helps about discussion. Further, if you look at the discussion part, all these things are completely quite important for functional activities. If you see the hypermarkets and mega markets posing major threats to small vendors, look at this nice strategy designed in response to the local market customer needs. For all these, there must be a multi-skilling workforce and sustainable economic prospects are really important for the entire development of countries revenue streams. Okay, all these, if you look at this, you can witness this table helps to visually anchor the key findings and need to reinforce the discussion in terms of understanding sustainability impact, customer retention, brand positioning, and revenue growth, and in terms of understanding the overall financial stability, resource optimization, workforce resilience. So basically, this talks about the dual impact of balancing goals. Look at this dimensional area like financial performance, operational strategy, brand reputation, innovation and RD. Well, it's about research and development. Basically, it talks about research and development. If you look at this long-term and short-term focus areas, if you look at the quick revenue and the most sustainable technology in terms of ESG compliance, this entire talks about eco-certification and ethical sourcing. Provided you should have a fast and very shareholder returns quarterly targets. All these are basically short term. If you look at the long term things, they basically on this community impact, employee well-being, and ESG. It is like something called a governance compliance part. So look at this balancing part ensures profitability without sacrificing future growth. Handling this entire challenges as a technological advancement in contemporary landscape, builds agility in terms of while foundations for resilience. That talks about ecosystem, enhanced trust and local customer loyalty. Then finally fosters about innovation and the short-term loss, align diverse interests for shared value. Practical example, negotiation skills to align pricing, analytics skills to measure impact, ROI, communication skills to transparency, report progress to all parties and stakeholders through marketing function. So this entire about conclusion, if you look at the strategic challenge, limited financial access, lack of skilled workforce and stability awareness gap, policy recommendation, really you have to work on expand microcredit and digital lending schemes for small retailers, and launch community level training for digital operations. Incentive eco-certification is green supply chains in terms of sustainability awareness. Much anticipated outcomes are improved liquidity and growth, boosted productivity and job quality. This talks about your environmental impact and brand equity. These are the few references I'm just putting it because all these references are very, very relevant and very valid to the conducted study case approach as a qualitative aspect. This ends my today oral presentation on the overall economic objectives in terms of sustainable development with a key contribution from small retailers business growth. Thank you one and all.